The beginning of the worst housing crash in history is now. And with that, we're going to get into it today. We got mortgage interest rates that are pushing 8%. If you've got perfect credit, and if you don't have perfect credit, then we're probably closer to trading somewhere in the nines for that non-preferred credit status. But not to worry, because those perfect credit scores will in some way subsidize some of those fees, which of course is fair to everybody. And today I've got back a special guest. You may know him as Kevin 24/7. And I wanted to include him in this video because we've been doing a lot of content recently between him, Squirrel Tribe 2.0, which of course is Michelle, his wife. And we've been going all over the place in terms of different things that are happening right now. And I want to be abundantly clear. I have made a commitment that I will always share the truth about what's happening in the housing markets. I cover all 22 metros, but I feel like I would be irresponsible if I did not also cover the climate that exists within the consumer space. Because the consumer, and what I mean by that is people just like you, people just like Kevin, people just like me, people who are thinking about buying, thinking about selling, maybe they're renting, basically anybody out there in our country right now that has any interest in anything, because everything is interconnected. So the housing market, the stock market, the political environment, the cultural environment, all of these things are tied together. And they're not just tied together here in this channel, they're tied together globally. So if we don't know what's going on from a boots on the ground perspective, then really we're just deluding ourselves into what's actually happening. And Kevin, you cover a lot of ground on your channel, and so I'm going to give you the floor a little bit here, and let's get into it.
Well, number one, thanks for having me back. I'm surprised that this actually happened, but hey, here we are. And maybe this will happen again. I don't know. Maybe after this video, you may be like, "Nah, Kevin, you're done." I'll get canceled.
Well, it is possible, because I do know that sometimes you get a little bit too carried away. And nobody wants that, right?
No, not at all. And but I'm not here to harp on or dwell on any of the negativity that was expressed in the comment section on that last video. The beauty of what we do is that we're doing good work to help good people make good choices and good decisions based on the truth, based on the facts. And we get paid to do it, which is another perk, not just from YouTube and its monetization, but as well as your real estate commissions and every other business venture that you have tied into your brand. But we don't get paid to respond to trolls and haters in the comment section. And that's where they stay. That's where they belong, under the bridge. So thanks for having me back yet again. And we got a lot to discuss here. I don't have my Hawaiian shirt or my floral shirt. I didn't wear it today because I didn't want to appear not black enough. So,
well, I went ahead and you actually inspired me with your last Hawaiian shirt. So actually, before this video and after I got done at the gym, I went to Target. Now, I typically don't like shopping. I don't like shopping for anything. I would much prefer that either my wife and kids go, because they do enjoy doing that, or I order what I want online. It is a rare occasion that I will actually go out shopping. But nonetheless, I felt compelled to rock something a little bit more sporty, something a little bit more Kevin-esque, something that created a lot of disdain in the comment section. And trust me, we're going to talk about that.
Oh,
but also, while I was there, I just couldn't help but notice that there was a very different selection of attire for me to potentially choose from. And hey, listen, it's Memorial Day, so we are going to be we're going to pay honor to those who have served and lost their lives in pursuit of our freedoms, which is the right thing to do. My great uncles were in World War II. They were at Pearl Harbor when it was attacked. My father was in the Army. So although I never served, I definitely feel a deep commitment to patriotism, to our armed service forces, anybody who served, and obviously the police, and really any public servant. But also, I want to be very inclusive. And while I was at Target, I couldn't help but notice this shirt, which I also want to rock. So I just want to make it known. I want to make sure you get the whole thing here. Now, to be clear, it is an extra small.
I was going to say that looks a little big on you.
It's super big. Oh, I lost my earbud. But I've been accused of being lots of things. I've been accused of being racist, being bigoted, being white privileged, being an elitist, being out of touch, being, much worse things that I'm actually going to cover in the comments section today. And they attacked you too for many of those things. But I just want to be very clear. I am all inclusive, period. And full stop, right? So life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness is what I think everyone who is a United States citizen deserves. And
now, obviously, today things are a lot different than your ancestors that you have described here earlier in the video, and their choice or requirement to fight for this country and our freedom. Today, we live in an age where most people would prefer, I think you even mentioned this on Squirrel Tribe 2.0 a couple of days ago, that just looking at TikTok created by a Chinese company, or quite possibly the Chinese government, is presented to U.S. users for the sole purpose and intention of making them look silly, making them look like trash, making them look thirsty. Whereas inversely, in China, they use it for empowerment, for education, for gain. And our society, our culture has moved towards an age where they would prefer not to work, sit at home, collect a check, or at the very least work online, which, granted, this is part of what you and I do. We leverage these platforms and the ability to have reach and monetize the work that we do and the content that we create. However, we're also seeing lower numbers in our armed forces, our military, our every branch for that matter, really. Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Space Force. Why is that? Obviously, there's no draft, so we're not going to have a mandate for people having to fight. But do you think that it could possibly be because some people choose not to fight for ultimately what this country is standing for now?
Well, you bring up a really good point. And one of the things that I know to be true, and it's because I'm friends with many of my friends are retired Marines. One of them is the head women's rugby coach for the Naval Academy. He did, I want to say, 5 or 6 tours between Iraq and Afghanistan. He is he's a hero, no question asked. But he served dutifully and continues to give back. And I've watched him coach, and I've had the experience of being at his house and seeing what that generation looks like. And those young men and women are exactly what I would want to be the defenders of our freedom. I mean, these young adults are born again hard. I mean, these are some really tough individuals. However, I also know, based on having been so close with them and talking to them all the time, the morale for enlistment is so low in many of the armed services that because of some of these policies that are in place, and because of some of this empowerment of woke culture, that they don't want to participate in any of that. And so if you're in I'm sorry, I mean, there's no easy way to say this. If I'm in a foxhole and I'm fighting for my life and I'm defending my family, my territory, my country, my whatever, my mission, the last thing I want is somebody that doesn't have the same mindset as I do, period. And we have diluted the backbone, I think, of much of the generation. And when I say we, I certainly haven't contributed to that, but I think the culture has shifted in a way where, we are soft generationally in ways that we never have been before. And I think the saying is hard times make hard men and soft times make soft men. Well, generationally, that's what it is. And China, who is about, I don't know, 50 steps ahead of us in this game of chess, they don't need to launch a missile to create a war with the United States. They can just launch an app and over time completely destroy the confidence and self-will and self-resilience and grit and determination and all the things that made America America. They can just do that for a very short period of time and turn the entire country into brittle cowards that are afraid of their shadow. And that's terrifying to me.
It is. It's crazy. It's simple when you really think about it, yet most people ignore the power that they have over us. And additionally, you saw the text that I shared with you, the screenshot I shared with you yesterday, where if you speak any truth outside of their push on that platform, you get banned.
Yeah, censorship is very real, and freedom of speech does not exist on many platforms, which is why I am now on Twitter, which is where I would encourage you to follow me now, because
what's your handle on Twitter?
It's Twitter is at Chris Igoe 1, which is the same as this channel.
Perfect.
Yep, and you're on Twitter too, right?
Oh yeah. I don't remember my handle though.
Well, I can't pivot them to go to your channel if you don't know what the name is. I'm thinking it's probably Kevin at 24/7.
It's at my handle is at Kevin 24/7 YouTube. Somebody already took Kevin 24/7, so at Kevin 24/7 YouTube on Twitter.
All right, there you go. So yeah, follow us there. We will continue to post on that platform, and I suspect that will be the home for free speech. But there are also other options out there. I'm looking into setting up a platform on Rumble. You and I have talked about doing some things in the future, which have yet to be determined. But I will. I mean, I think we're going to make it happen because the last thing I want is for open, transparent dialogue to disappear, because that is the end of the world as we know it.
Now, I do feel as though that gets lost, not by all, but by some. And my math, rough math, is typically the comments are 1% of 1%. Okay, 1% of your viewership or your subscriber count, and 1% of that will leave comments that do not promote healthy dialogue and debate and discussion. Instead, they attack and they judge and they completely misread the entire situation. But as clarification, we don't get paid to respond to comments, but we do get paid to make videos responding to comments.
So with that in mind, let's go right into it now, because I think it will be helpful for us to get into those comments. And let's see if I can find this puppy. Where are we? Okay, let me.
Don't show them that revenue tag, that tab. That'll really piss them off.
I'm not gonna. Well, so I will comment on the monetization of YouTube, and I had planned on doing a video at some point in the future sharing exactly how much I've earned from YouTube. But the YouTube analytics, and we'll see some of the comments. Some people have accused me of being paid off by builders to make comments or things like, or to make content. Nobody's ever paid me to do anything. And I will never, well, not that I would not do that in the future. I certainly would be open to that, but I will also be transparent with that when I do it. I won't do anything on this channel that I don't believe is in the best interest of the consumer. So if it doesn't align with what I believe in, I'm not doing it, because my monetization through AdSense is whatever it is. But I'm monetized from people just like you who find me on YouTube and then hire me to help them buy or sell a home. And that monetization is insanely higher than anything that YouTube has ever paid me, at least up till now. And I'm not going to get into that today because I think it's a different content piece. But let's look at these comments here a little bit. And what you'll notice on the screen is that the comments that may be offensive have been hidden. But those are the ones we're going to start with first. Show hidden comments. They may contain language that's considered offensive. Well, I find that to be very interesting because I was almost thrown off this platform because in my replies to comments, which were maybe sarcastic at best, but always thoughtful, always a lot of fun to do, someone deemed them as being hateful. They were not. I've read all the terms of service, and I was almost thrown out off the platform, which is why I'm now on Twitter. But like you can be the judge as to whether the what we're about to see would be considered hate speech.
So the haters are going to hate, Chris. But I do have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Because I do have access to your channel through YouTube Studio because, you know, we do help each other with understanding and analyzing the analytics and the approach to this algorithm for maximum success on and off the platform. But you received a comment, and I just need a little bit of context on this comment where it says, anyone can tell you stories. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what gets me clicks. Now, this was on one of your videos.
Okay.
Do you recall the worst housing crash in 100 years just started? Are they quoting something you said, or are they trying to mock your approach?
I mean, haters are going to hate, so I don't know what the mindset behind that is. I mean, a lot of people will say that what I'm putting out is clickbait or untrue. And anybody who actually watches the video in its entirety will absolutely understand what the content was about and why it fits into whatever the title and the thumbnail is. But if they don't watch the video, well, then they have no idea what I'm talking about. But I am committed to telling the truth and also sharing what I expect to see happen based on my experience, having been a stockbroker for 20 years, having seen many of these patterns that are very easily identifiable to anybody who is paying attention and has some experience. But given that I traded through the entire great financial crisis and every other global crisis that existed in my 20-year career, which you had the tech crisis, you had the when I first started, there was the Asian global crisis. There was there's always a crisis somewhere. And so that job required me to be 24/7 plugged into what the news cycle is because I needed to trade around it. So if there's a sector or a industry or a company that is going to likely get whacked because of whatever dynamics are happening, well, then there are strategies that you can use in order to benefit and profit from the decline in that value. And there are so many different tools that you can do and so many different ways that you can hedge yourself when you're trading around these types of things that you don't only make market when the market goes up, you can also profit greatly when the market goes down. And that's actually when I made the most money for my clients and for myself, was when the bottom fell out. So there is tremendous opportunity that exists during a recession, during a crash, during a bull run. Money never sleeps. So as long as you're nimble and know how to trade and know and are fluent with, this isn't rocket science. If you are educated and financially aware and fluent in the language that you must learn, well, then you can trade around basically anything and make a profit.
So this comment, it only stood out to me for one reason, but then what you had just said about being paid and sponsored and affiliated by builders to say certain things made me then think about this comment just even deeper. And number one is it's not just watching the video, because people watch videos all the time. It's actually listening to the video and hearing what is being said and interpreting that, and not just automatically having an assumption based on what you think you know before you've even pressed play. Not to mention the content creators who are exploiting this to the nth degree. They're not getting paid by builders. They're not getting paid by lenders. They're not getting paid by these companies, these developers to say these things about the market. They're being paid by advertisers that are pumping this algorithm, and they're continuously feeding this false narrative that everyone loves to ingest and absorb. And then when someone like you comes along and tells them the truth behind a similar style title and thumbnail, they think that they don't trust you.
Right. And I tell everyone, listen, don't trust me. Verify. Do your own research. Do your own due diligence. Everything that I share is current. It's very easily provable or disprovable. Do your own research, but don't trust me. Trust the numbers. And what I take great offense to is that there are so many content creators that are out there that are relying on yesterday's news or what Zillow says or what some other analyst says. Analysts are wrong all the time. In fact, the housing market today, the professionals that are in the housing market today, and you and I talked off, this was last week. I was completely flabbergasted because I did some videos on it because I was getting emails and I was getting reach outs from people that are in the industry that are telling me and telling their clients that it's the best time ever to buy a home, or that something along the lines of you can't lose money buying real estate. And I wanted to strangle them. So I made some reaction videos, but I'm going to tell a story right now. I went to a luncheon, which was, I don't want to give too much detail or give too much away, but I was at an awards type luncheon for the top producers in my market. And it was a handful of folks. There were maybe 10 people there. But this is the best of the best. These are the top producers. These are people that, in some cases, do far more volume than I do. And when somebody does more volume than me, then I obviously want to learn from them. I want to see what they're doing, right? So I want to compare notes. And one of the exercises that they asked us to do at this luncheon was talk about the thing that that we felt was most critical to their success this year. And to be clear, the housing market in Florida for this year is down in terms of overall sales, is down roughly 30%, period. So there's 30% less business happening this year versus last. And it could be a little bit more. It could be anywhere between 30 and 40, and depending on the month and the market, it varies. But let's, for the sake of this conversation, say it's business is down 30% across the board. Well, my business isn't down 30% across the board. My business is exploding. And anyhow, but they asked us to say why or what it is that we attribute our success to. And so what I said was, I tell people the truth about the housing market on YouTube. And that, which nobody understood whatsoever. But I shared it with the group and they asked questions and then they told me what they're doing. And one of them proceeded to tell me about his investment portfolio in real estate and how all of these are tied together with HELOCs, which is a home equity line of credit. And while he's a little bit concerned that well, I don't want to say he or she may have been concerned with the fact that the HELOC interest rate is going higher. And by the way, mortgage interest rates, in case you missed it in the beginning, are now 8% and closer to 9% if you don't have perfect credit. But for a HELOC, those numbers are very different. Nonetheless, his whole portfolio is built on this house of cards that makes zero sense to me. But I didn't want to correct him. I didn't want to offend him. I didn't want to start a fight. I wasn't looking for an argument. I just listened and said, oh, that's fantastic. I hope it works out well. But this is the best of the best in the industry doing this for themselves. If they're doing it for themselves, what the hell are they telling their clients? And funny, yesterday I went to a birthday party for my friends. It was a double 40th birthday party for the husband and wife. They were celebrating, they both turned 40. And as I was there, one of the people there was like 90, it was a huge party. There was like 90 to 100 people there. Somebody came up to me. They're like, I know you from YouTube. I watch all your content. Let me tell you my story. I bought a house right before right when the market was going crazy. And I thought I made the best investment of my life. and I ended up having to short sale it, and it was half price, and it devastated me. And so we saved and we saved and we saved, and now I'm going to be 40, and now I'm in a rental, and I don't own a home. What do? I watch your videos all the time. Can you talk to me? And so we talked. I gave him my number, and it's the same thing that I would say to anybody who leaves a stupid comment. If you have a real question, if you have a real concern, call me, reach out to me, text me, email me. My email, all of my contact information is plastered across every video that I do. It's right where the hell is it? I don't know where I'm pointing. It's on the effing screen. It's not hard to find me. It's not like I'm hiding. Yeah. So if you have a question or a concern, or you want my help or input, then reach out, because that's what I do. That's why I do this content. So if you're confused or uncertain or whatever, which most people are, then get some advice. And if you don't like what I have to say, verify it, because I'm going to tell you the truth. You might not like what you have to hear, but I suspect that nice guy who I'm friendly with, and I would like to say we're friends, we certainly will be in the future, I will give him the best advice to advise him how to make the best decisions for himself, because I'm not him. I don't know what his circumstances are.
It's unfortunate that this platform caters and aligns and like directs the majority into a confirmation bias of negativity and distress and destruction, basically, when that's not necessarily the case. Now, granted, you could find the bad in any situation, but you could also try to find the good.
And there's a lot. Listen, there's always. You mentioned something about when we did our last video. You were talking about when you were thinking about, or when you moved out of Atlanta, and I asked you what was the scene like there, and your response. You can tell me what your response was.
Oh, well, it's like the scene was going to be what it was going to be, and we didn't put ourselves in a position to be a part of a bad scene that we didn't want to be, included in, and we just stayed out of those areas. But ultimately, that was, another driving force of where we were going to go moving forward, not just Florida, not just Northwest Florida, but, also taking into consideration the leadership of this state as well. But it is what it is, and we tend to be driven towards and attracted to positivity, growth, and success.
Right. So I'll say that differently. You could be living in a hellhole, and within that hellhole, there are going to be like-minded individuals like you, and you can seek out the best of the best. And when I say the best of the best, you can find your tribe. I mean, your wife, her channel is called Squirrel Tribe or Squirrel Tribe 2.0. And there are people that think, and again, I'm not saying that you got to exclude anybody, but there are positive people that are in the world. And if you're only looking for negativity, well, then that's what you're going to find. If you look for positivity, well, then that's what you're going to find. You're the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, or maybe it's the 7. Find 7 winners, and you will elevate your game. It's impossible not to. But if you don't, and you're hanging out with 7 losers, well, chances are you're probably going to be one.
Yeah, number one, I will exclude people just from the simple fact that I exist. The fact that I'm here, the words that I say, things, if you hear me speak, I've excluded someone some way, some shape, somehow, some form, because they just don't like me for whatever reason it may be. And it wasn't my intention, but ultimately it then drives them away, and I've excluded them. But at the same time, when people ask me, hey, how are things? How's the economy? What do you think? Yada, yada, yada. My answer is always typically pretty good because of what you just said. The people in my circle, we're all seeking that. So no, it's not terrible. No, it's not. I mean, obviously there are some negatives out there that we identify, we understand, but we're also aware of those so that we can avoid them and use them to our advantage to seek whatever possible brighter future is out there for us.
Right. Seek and ye shall find. Now, with that in mind, I want to find these comments, which I think I had up and I just put down.
My bad. I got you thrown off.
Because no, it's all good. It's
everything.
Well, I've made a commitment that I'll always be transparent with my audience, and I want the audience to see what we have to deal with on a regular basis. So I'm going to start with, I don't know if you can see this, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to give him any credit, but you can probably see it on the screen. I'm just reading this, right? So there is no hateful intent, there is no malice, there is no anything, but I was accused of hate speech in my comments, which I never did. But this is what I got, which might be potentially inappropriate. The two of you morons would never criticize reparations for the Jews who got them. You would never criticize reparations for the Japanese Americans who got them. You would never criticize reparations for so many other groups who got them. But black people who endured more injustice than any group are the group who are fair game for creatures like the both of you
Oh boy.
to joke about and belittle. Kevin, I don't have any recollection of joking about or belittling anybody. Do you?
Again, this was judging a book by its cover. They didn't actually read it. Okay, they didn't actually listen to the context of it, and they automatically painted this picture in their minds of what they wanted to see. And I can tell you right now, if the world was blind, it would be a much better place. Like if everybody was blind, like literally couldn't see, the game would change. Okay. With that being said, if our same video was a blank screen, this comment wouldn't exist. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they've created this idea in their head of us two morons from which they're quoting things that never actually happened.
Oh, it gets better. So now this is addressed to you.
Wait, there's more.
Oh, yeah, there's more. Kevin, and honestly, I got to give him credit because a lot of times when people make comments, they don't actually turn them into paragraphs or subsections. So this was this was very nice of him. Kevin, if you spent more time studying Black history and less time with Chris's in your mouth, perhaps you would understand that reparations are not about being paid for being Black. I guess you didn't study enough. Clearly, Kevin is so obsessed with impressing his master, Chris. Oh my God, this is the blinding stupidity of this idiot. But okay, clearly, Chris is so obsessed.
I don't even know how he found your video. Anyway, I'm not going to say anything about him. From what you're reading here, I was like, how did you come across this?
Well, not only that, but I sent you a screenshot of this earlier before we even did this video because I thought it was so hilarious. I missed this part. Clearly, Kevin is so obsessed with impressing his master, Chris, that he will say and do anything to please him. Yeah, that's exactly how our relationship has been. Chris is the typical entitled white male, a pure liar who tries to convince. Oh, God. A pure liar who tries to convince the world that he has not benefited from his whiteness. I don't even know what to say to that. We already know that Chris is an arrogant fool. Nothing more can be expected of him. But Kevin, you can go to hell. All right, so I'm going to delete that one now.
Well, we gotta go. We gotta go through this. The two of you morons would never criticize reparations. We never criticized them. I know I didn't. I'm pretty sure you didn't. More specifically, and odds are whatever we say now or I say will be misheard or ignored or misinterpreted, just like the first video was. But the simple fact of the matter is that you got to understand the implications of their actions. Okay. The simple fact of the matter is that if they do cut these checks, what happens next?
Bad economic policy. Will I criticize bad economic policy? Yes, every day, all day long. Bad economic policy is bad economic policy. Black, white, green, yellow, whatever. Look at my shirt, for crying out loud. For everybody. it doesn't. There is no discriminate. There is no What is the right way? I do not discriminate against anybody. Period. However, I will discriminate against bad economic policy because not doing so is stupid.
And I'll skip over the rest because the rest is really just a moot point.
Yeah.
But it says Chris is a typical entitled white male, a pure liar who tries to convince the world that he has not benefited from his whiteness. And I came across a story, and I don't remember who wrote it, but it was a story about a real estate agent in Florida. No, I said about in New York. He was in New York City, and he bought a Rolex. This Rolex helped propel his career. Now, not in the way that you would typically think, but also it was a fake Rolex that he bought in Chinatown. And the simple fact of the matter is that he used this tool to receive benefit from that tool. Okay. Now, with that being said, there's going to be instances where that may work in your favor for being white. Okay. But I can guarantee you that you didn't use that as your sole driving force behind the success of your career, the wealth that you have amassed, the relationships that you have built, nor are you a liar, or at least not completely. I mean, I really don't think that you could be as far as you are, where you are today, doing what you do as a pure liar. That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's not possible. I don't really feel like that's, a realistic possibility. And lastly, I'll be the first one to say that if you haven't done that, then shame on you, because I have done it being black, and I have done it at the hand of our U.S. government and the Small Business Administration by applying and being approved for the 8A program that is specifically designed for disadvantaged individuals, i.e. black, which has made me money.
Well,
I'm off my hot horse now.
So you told a story about an agent in New York, and I don't know if this is who you were referencing, but I'll use him as an example. And he tells the story himself in his own book, Sell It Like Sirhan. Ryan Sirhan, who is a billion-dollar producer and the preeminent broker in New York, with his brokerage, which I think is called Sirhan, he tells his own story that when he started, he was a failed rental agent in New York, and he was about to quit the business, and he saw an opportunity to try out for a show, which was $1 Million Listing or whatever the hell it's called. And so he went there and he leveraged his credit cards to appear a certain way for the television show, and he made the show, and he used that to his advantage and exploited every tool at his disposal to be able to then go out there and become the #1 broker in New York City.
Oh, you are 100% right. You are 100% correct.
There we go.
You're not a liar.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about that. I didn't know that's who you were referencing, but I read his book. So I'm constantly reading and self-developing and learning about everything I can so that I know exactly what's going on. And yes, I do read all your stupid ass comments, and I don't reply to any of them, but I wanted to at least address that one. I'm not going to go into all of them because they're way too hateful and way too discriminatory and way too triggering. And I can promise you, whoever's leaving those messages would never say them to my face. You wouldn't, because you're a spineless. I'm talking to whoever you are right now.
Yeah,
spineless. You're a spineless coward.
But at the end of the day, if we were to, sit down, the three of us, there would really only be one moron in that would be present there. So let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next one since we're having fun with this. Let's go. Let's see. Where's the? I was starting to get too triggered there, Kevin.
gotta pull you back some. You gotta say all that to Twitter.
All right. So, do we want to address the token black man with his flaming shirt?
What was that one? Michelle says they're called palm leaves, moron.
Yeah. Hold on. So just so we can. I went out and bought every single shirt that they had at Target because I'm entitled and white privileged. But I wanted to make sure that I had every color represented in the Hawaiian shirt genre. So now I get to be the token.
Outfit change.
Outfit change. That's right. Okay, so there we go. Now I got my. Oh, it's not flaming. Where's the lighter?
Not yet.
Hey, Sawyer, can you get me some gasoline? I'm gonna light myself on fire for YouTube. All right.
That'll get the views. That'll get the clicks.
I'm kidding. Not gonna do that because I'm not an idiot.
And you shouldn't either.
And yes,
it's the old adage, don't eat the daisies. You really got to tell some of these people not to be so stupid.
Right. So please, whatever you do, don't light yourself on fire. Okay. So that's the flaming shirt comment. Oh,
but in this society, it would happen, and then they would try to sue fire. They would sue a gasoline corporation.
Well, so our good friend who made the last comment comes in with another whammy over the top. He's dropping the people's elbow from the top turnbuckle. Kevin wants to bend over for Chris so bad he will say anything. LOL.
Kevin says what Kevin wants. Now, Chris may edit out some of the stuff Kevin says, but he hasn't. But Kevin says what Kevin wants.
Oh God. Okay. So anyway, closeted commenter.
I like the one.
You know where to find.
I like the one that says, Kevin, thank you for your wisdom. Keep sharing. We are considering Northwest Florida too. Would love a tip for a good realtor. And the response is, Kevin's a moron. Somebody just saw it there.
No, but keep in mind, it's not somebody. It's the same guy who's put the last 3 posts.
Oh, somebody wants to be seen. Look, if you start a YouTube channel, they don't charge you. Just start one. You can make content. You can talk crap about me all day long if you want. Odds are you're probably not going to get a subscriber count or a subscriber base or get any views. But hey, you ain't gotta lurk in somebody else's comment. Don't ride Chris's coattails. Pave your own way. If you're sitting here commenting on Chris's videos, and that just means that you're just underneath the white man, basically, because there's Chris up there. You see his picture, and then there's you below him.
Haters gonna hate, winners gonna win. Let's move on. Kevin is not a moron. All right. Okay. Black people not welcome. That's interesting.
Where is that? I don't know if I have that.
Where are black people not welcome? Because they're certainly welcome at my house. They're certainly welcome in my neighborhood. They're certainly welcome in my state. Yeah. They're certainly welcome, anywhere I go. I go, you go, we all go.
I ain't gonna lie, dude. I told you I put up that video yesterday. We went to the beach, and to my surprise, it seemed like black people were welcome. I saw black people at the beach. So I'm not really sure where this is coming from. They were here. I saw some out-of-state tags. Everybody's having a good time. Go figure.
All right. So we're to our last and best comment, which is actually in response to someone who has been on the channel for a while, has watched a lot of content, has in fact reached out to me before. I'm like 99.9% sure. But I'm going to read her comment first. I'm a 51-year-old black woman born and raised. Actually, I know exactly who this is. Just super sweetheart. I'm a 51-year-old black woman born and raised in Florida. It is the South, so there is a little more racism here than other places. I have on more than one occasion been called the N-word. I just want to go on the record here. I have been on more than multiple occasions been called the N-word. So, full disclosure. But not so much that you can't be happy here. Chris can only speak from a privileged white man's perspective. Well, I think I should probably do some content talking about my history a little bit at some point. I don't know if it's appropriate for this channel.
I mean, you've
And
always been a white man, so you got that. But
I do
as far
100%.
as
So, do I have white privilege because I was born white? Yes, 100%. There is certainly advantages to that, especially in the time that I was born. Do I think it exists the same way today? I don't. I actually think that, in fact, I feel somewhat blessed. I have two daughters, and my sister, who has two sons, I think they are going to experience racism in a much different level than I ever did. And that's going to be their own challenge and obstacle to overcome. But that's a different story for a different conversation. Um, but I love, so yes, it's true that I can only speak from a white man's perspective. We can debate how privileged I was, and I think you'd be shocked if you actually knew my story. But that's a different content piece. But I love his optimism. Chris, you are a sweetheart, but you can't know what it's like to live in the South in black skin. That is 100% true. I do not have black skin. I can't possibly know what that's like. I don't pretend to either. When I sold my house, I removed everything from my house that may have indicated that I was black. I was even passed over for a job. Well, there are a lot of people who get passed over for a job, and I don't know enough about this person, so I'm not weighing in on their particular circumstance at all. But there are, and I'm not going to say that that doesn't exist. I'm sure that it does. But I also know in a meritocracy, if you're not doing the work, that's why you got passed up for the job. They chose a white man less qualified than me. Well, that may be true, and that sucks. So, full stop there. They ended up firing him and hiring me in the end. Well, it looks like that your market value, the market is always right, and the market proved you to be right. That's a meritocracy. Sorry, Chris, just keeping it real. I'm currently looking for a home in Palm Beach County. Well, I appreciate her comment. That's a thoughtful comment. And I would love to have been able to respond to that in a comment, but I know that if I do, I am at risk. So I don't reply to comments
yeah,
anymore.
and so if you would, if I could,
Sure.
you know, born and raised in Florida, it is the South, so there's a little more racism here than in other places. Which I am a little curious how you know that if you were born and raised in Florida, what type of comparing and contrasting experience do you have, seeing as though you were born and raised in Florida? I have on more than one occasion been called the N word. Got it. But interestingly enough, were you called the N word by other black people? Um, but not so much that you can't be happy here. I think that's what's most important is realizing you can be happy anywhere if you so choose. Chris can only speak from a privileged white man's perspective. We already discussed that. But I love your optimism. And that optimism is what allows you to be happy, okay? Not being continuously pessimistic and only focusing on the negative. Um, but Chris will never know what it's like to live in the South in black skin. But I don't think it's just the South, okay? Because I've actually come across case studies of out west where there's extreme racism amongst white people against white people. If you want to call it that, at the end of the day, it's hate and discrimination. Okay. That's all it is, really. And it doesn't matter if you're in the South, but if you automatically assume because you're in the South, well, you're ultimately going to find what you're looking for. Okay. And I was even passed over for a job. Now, that one is very interesting because most people have very little insight behind what happens behind the scenes with their employer or their employment. And I could easily even just go out on a limb here and say that the other person that you were passed over on this job for who received it, they might have even accepted the job for far less pay, which would have been an extremely enticing proposition for the employer to give it a shot. I wouldn't automatically say it's because they were white and you were black.
Well, you made a really good point that hate is hate, period. And it doesn't, hate isn't geographically located, it's everywhere. Hate exists, and that's unfortunate. But that's just a full statement. Like hate is hate, and it's unacceptable always. It's funny that she mentioned she can be happy here. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with who Viktor Frankl is. You know who that is?
No,
All right. There. Have you ever heard about the book called "Man's Search for Meaning"?
no.
So Viktor Frankl was, I think he was a young man at the time, but he wrote a book which is very very famous, very very well read, and it talks about his experience being in the living through the Holocaust, being at I want to say Auschwitz, and finding happiness, finding fulfillment, finding a purpose, and surviving and thriving through the worst horrific atrocracy. Is that the right word? Not sure if that's the right word or if I said it the right way. During the Holocaust, for God's sake, it was the worst. And talking about having no food and the fear of death and the fear of being exterminated like a bug. He goes into great detail about all of that, and yet he managed to keep. And he lost almost all of his family, his parents, I think his children. I don't remember the exact scenario, but he found meaning and happiness and purpose through the darkest period in history. So you can be happy anywhere. If Viktor Frankl could find a way to do it, anybody can.
I mean, I don't think you could have said it any better.
Yeah, and so check out the book if you haven't ever heard about it or seen it or any of those things. I would encourage the viewer to check that out because it's a game changer in terms of mindset. If you think we have it bad today, I can promise you we haven't experienced anything even remotely close to what Viktor Frankl suffered or what he wrote about in that book, Man's Search for Meaning. All right, but let's get into actually new wardrobe change. I just want to make sure everybody can truly officially understand
You're not gonna
how
put a dress on, are you?
I thought about it. How very pasty white I actually am.
Oh boy.
Here we go.
I don't know if this is suitable for the platform. You might get age restricted or something.
I don't know, but trying to get this shirt off, which is 3 sizes too small, was not easy. All right, come on now.
This is the part that you don't see normally. Behind the scenes footage.
And I'm not editing any of this. So if you made it this far, thank you. I appreciate it. But I truly want you to see how
Because I'm not going to edit any of this.
disgustingly white I actually am.
There it is.
Whew. There it is. Hey, good thing you're wearing sunglasses.
Proud to be an American.
Proud to be an American. Here we go. All right. So let's get back into the comments now. All right. So we got a comment 3 days ago in response to what we just wrote. And this guy, or I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, is not very nice. Miss Lady, he isn't a sweetheart. He is a deluded, arrogant, white beep who lives in his comfy bubble community and thinks that anyone who doesn't support DeSantis or Trump is a socialist, just like most or all of one or both of their supporters. I guarantee this idiot douchebag voted for Donald in the first election, then switched his support to Ronald for 2024. He wants to lecture. Wow, they really spent a lot of time going into great detail about how much they hate me. But to know that I have an impact on somebody this way is just remarkable to me, but it is what it is. He wants to, and I should mention also, thank you so much to my clients, and thank you so much to all the subscribers who leave incredibly nice comments.
Well,
And
I was actually just thinking that, and you know, we have to lead by example here, and there should be another video where you highlight those comments.
yeah, it's a great idea. And I shared one with you yesterday, which was a text that I got from somebody in Broward who was looking to buy a property and profusely thanked me for me or for their belief that I educated and provided such valuable content to them. And then I talked to them on the phone a little bit and went back and forth with text. They were incredibly grateful that I told them the truth and helped serve and support them at the highest level. There's lots more examples of that kind of stuff, but that is not as sensational as these negative comments. So let's continue working through the negativity, and then we'll be done with it. All right, so let's see here. He wants to lecture folks about history, but his selective Alzheimer's doesn't fool real capitalized scholars of history. Okay. Socialist policies under FDR reduced dangerous 16-hour working conditions in factories and existed for decades before FDR got elected. Socialist policies got him 8-hour workdays, his benefits, got him Social Security at age 65, which he probably thinks should be taken away. And his unions, when he says he, is he talking about me? And his unions, which all his ancestors benefited from, and which protected the right of white workers back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s, while ignoring or outright denying Black union members who put in equal time on the job, equal treatment, or equal pay. I challenge him to interview one Black person who lives in a nice neighborhood and ask them if they feel safe in Florida surrounded by a bunch of red MAGA mad dogs who supported the violent, illegal lynch mob insanity they started that took place in DC on January 6th. Okay, well, it just so happens, Kevin, you live in Florida.
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot.
Well, I mean, Kevin, you live in a nice neighborhood, and last I checked, you're not white. So I was challenged to talk to somebody who is similar to you. Why not? Why not answer?
Well, I mean, if I'm going to answer that question, I need to provide a little bit of context. Okay.
Sure.
So, number one, I am a moron. Okay. So we mustn't forget that. Number two, when we take out our center console or one of the boats that we have access to here, we end up in a sea of other boats and yachts, all of which proudly flying their Trump flags and their FJB flags. We brush shoulders. We are, in close proximity to all these apparently these MAGA. I can't read this. MAGA mad dogs. Okay, MAGA mad dogs here. And if I were to count on one hand all of the instances that I have felt, I don't even remember what he said. I can't really read it, but if I could count on one hand all the instances that I've experienced here in Florida, living amongst this bunch that have been so bad, including what happened today, that number would be 0.
Okay, so myth debunked.
The number would be 0, and we're looking to buy a home here. We're not leaving Florida. And if we were to leave Florida, it wouldn't be for any of those reasons. It would just be because we chose that we wanted to live somewhere else.
All right, so let's just continue through and wrap this puppy up. This white boy, that's me, won't do it because it would destroy his fake ass confirmation bias / fake narrative. Newsflash, white boy. You know what? That might be a great channel name for a new channel. It could be Newsflash White Boy. So thank you to whoever made this comment for such a creative new channel name. Living anywhere in America is dangerous for Black people at any given moment. Just ask a Black person who has been pulled over by the police, who luckily lived to tell about it. I lived in Florida and moved. If I lived in Florida and moved to your neighborhood, I'd keep a gun at my side at all times and keep an eye open for whiteys, just like you. It's called stand your ground. Is this a terrible threat to me?
That does sound pretty threatening to me. I mean, obviously, one of the reasons why we would even consider Florida was the simple fact that it was a concealed carry friendly state. Now, new legislation makes that constitutional carry, which is perfectly fine. I did actually prefer the older method that required a 4-hour training course in a classroom setting and range time in order to be licensed to conceal carry. But that doesn't make me want to go out and keep an eye out for Whitey. And if I have to be honest here, if there was any real racism here, it's him against you.
I obviously.
Like, how is it possible that we're going to have a debate and discussion and try to come to some form of mutual agreement here on peace when essentially the racism is being directed, as you described, that your daughters will probably experience growing up towards white people?
I mean, it's funny because I sent you a screenshot of this earlier before. I don't know what I did. Whoa, there we go. But I sent you a screenshot of it. But I didn't really read this completely. I was just too busy.
Yeah, I only got like
too busy laughing.
I got like the first 3 lines. I didn't get the whole thing.
Yeah, but honestly, I mean, that is a direct threat. If I lived in Florida and moved to your neighborhood, I keep a gun. First of all,
that should be
I suspect you can't afford. Well, let me just let's cut it. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't believe that you could afford to live in my neighborhood, but that's a totally different story for a different day.
Oh,
and that's got nothing to do with anything other than you didn't earn it. But putting that to the side, if I lived in Florida and moved to your neighborhood, where, by the way, you'd be welcomed by everyone, unless you proceeded to then say the next sentence.
The next section of this conversation is so threatening and terroristic and threatens violence. So I do not feel comfortable covering this subject matter any further on YouTube. I would please ask you to follow me on Twitter and check out the rest of the video, because I think it's critical that everyone understand exactly what the current cultural environment is right now, but I just don't feel safe having this conversation on YouTube. I think the next section of this conversation is so controversial that it must be seen on Twitter. So please follow me on Twitter, check out the video now, and if there's ever anything I can do to help serve or support you in any way, if you're thinking about buying or selling anywhere, please reach out, because we would love to help. So please watch the rest of the video on Twitter.
Would not end well for you either.
I don't even understand how this can transpire after having a discussion about being pulled over by the police. Just because you were pulled over by the police doesn't mean that you immediately have the ability to exercise lethal force and stand your ground. Like that inherently is quite possibly part of the biggest problem here is the lack of intelligence and clear stupidity. And on top of that, anger, hate.
And so that's why I think it's so important that we continue to have these conversations, because transparency and open dialogue about everything is the only way that we get past this hate rhetoric and into some sort of rapport and get to understand that we're all humans. We all want the best for each other, at least in the world that I live in. I want the best for you. I surround myself with people who want the best for me, and I provide information so that everybody can make the best decisions for themselves, for their family, and for their financial bottom line. And if that's not what you're into, well, then please unsubscribe. Please go away. Please create your own channel and spew whatever nonsense it is that you want to. I don't think it will turn out well for you, but everybody can do whatever they want to do.
And just for devil's advocate here, these comments I don't believe represent the collective group. Okay, these are just a few trolls that made it through and made it past the gatekeeper that then got held into this potentially inappropriate section. But I don't think that this is actually what everybody thinks.
And it's 100% not. So let's end this on a good note. So the overwhelming majority of the comments are incredibly positive. They are incredibly kind, the people who reach out to me from across the country and around the world could not be more happy that we're engaging in conversation or dialogue or email. And the folks that hire me are absolutely thrilled that they did, because irrespective of market conditions, I get them the best deal, period. End of story. I love to negotiate, whether I'm helping a seller get the most money for their property or a buyer who's looking to get the best deal. That is my wheelhouse. That is what I do best. So if I can help you in any way, please reach out, because I would love to help. And Kevin, I appreciate you. I just appreciate you. And of course, I appreciate Squirrel Tribe. So please check out their channels. You can find him on YouTube at Kevin247 and on Twitter at Kevin247, YouTube, and
Hey,
Squirrel Tribe 2.0.
Thanks for allowing me back on again. I don't know if there will be another episode, but if so, I'm down. And maybe we can do it without the virtual interface, because you said you wanted to come to Destin anyway to come hang out.
I do.
Not only do we need to get together, hang out, have a good time, but Chris, we got to get you some sun.
Yes, sir. All right. On that note, check out my next video. And until next time, peace.